I'ma do it some nights. So what my eyes, that moment I visualize is coming. If you could see me now, see I'm gonna break through the life I knew. Been waiting, a dream come true. Still aiming. If you could see me now, if you could see me now.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You guys know it's Friday. Doing a little bit of a different video today. We are going back to Cardfight Vanguard Overdress. I haven't done a video on it in quite a while. And today I want to bring you my Eugene deck profile. I really adore the card. The deck's a lot of fun and it does pretty well. But I've got some interesting ideas for text and I wanted to share it with you guys and give you guys my thoughts on the deck. So after the deck profile, stay tuned for a little bit after. I can tell you guys my final thoughts on the deck, especially after playing it at this week's locals. But let's get into the deck profile. Alright guys, kicking off the deck profile, we've got our ride line. I'm playing Sunrise Egg as my starter. Mostly preference, but you never know. Might come into a little bit of a mind game if your opponent thinks I'm playing Nirvana. Since we are playing the Eugene line, we're using Nigel, Rander, and Eugene. Now, onto the deck. Starting off with grade zeros. So our trigger lineup is already pretty unique. 4 heals, 4 fronts, and 7 crits. And of course, 1 over trigger. Now, the reason I decided to go with fronts over draws is because the deck already has a big problem with decking out. And being able to generate a board without needing a hand helps too. This gives me more access to more 15k shields. And I'm kind of future-proofing for set 2. Because in set 2 we get stand triggers that can become 20k shields. And I'm absolutely going to run those. And I found out they come SP, so that's going to be cool too. Obviously we run 7 crits because we only have the 1 over trigger. And 4 heals are standard. But onto the grade 1s. Obviously we have our 1 Nigel for the ride deck, but we do run 3 more for the main. The card is bonkers. It's a great support card for Eugene. On the Vanguard circle, when you ride over it with Randor, you get to soul charge 1. This deck is heavy soul reliant. But on the rear guard, when you retire a rear guard, you can counterblast 1 to retire Nigel to retire another rear guard. Doesn't care what the grade of said rear guard is, which is a big deal to me. And it's good to go with Eugene's actual skill, which we'll get to when we get to grade 3s. I play 4 Stealth Fiend Shinamanago, another great support card for Eugene. On the rear guard circle, when a rear guard is retired during your turn, you can retire her to check the top card of your deck, and if it's a unit card, you can either call it or you put it into the soul. So either it's a soul charge to for Eugene, or it's 1 less card you have to fish out with Eugene's skill. Of course, 4 PGs. I like the new PGs. If you have 1 or less cards in your hand when you guard with it, you get to use it for free. And lastly, for grade 1s, we play 2 Tensa Steed. When this unit boosts anything and hits anything, you can counterblast 1, retire it to search a copy of your Vanguard, and add it to your hand. Great for getting Persona rides off, because that's really the only way this deck can hit really, really good numbers. Now, to go along with our grade 2 Randor, we do run 3 more. Now, hear me out on Randor. Randor is a great rear guard for soul charging and for offense. So his Vanguard skill actually is, when you ride over him with Eugene, you get to draw a card, and then take a card from your drop zone, add it to your soul. So again, more soul charge and draw. But on the rear guard circle, or Vanguard circle actually, you can do this on your second turn. When it attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, you can counterblast 1 to soul charge 1 and gain an extra 5,000 power. That doesn't sound like much for the Vanguard skill, but it's an extra soul charge. But on the rear guard, with any 8k booster, that's a 23k line, which is actually a really solid number. With the front triggers or Persona Ride, that becomes 33k lines, and then we're talking real numbers. This is the MVP of the deck. Stealth Rogue of Iron Blade Oshikuni. If your opponent has 2 less rear guards, just gains plus 5k. Same thought process as the extra Randors. 23k lines, 15k's by itself, so it can hit any Vanguard if you don't have a booster. Like say I have to use the boosters to fuel Eugene, I can still hit numbers. And lastly, for unit grade 2s, we have Drag Ritter Owlith, kind of last one, Soul Blast 1, on place, retire 20 points, grade 2 or greater rear guards. This deck never runs out of soul. I thought there would be a problem maintaining soul with how much soul blasting the deck has. There isn't. It's really, really easy. The deck only has 3 cards that actually counterblast. 1, 2, 3, and 4 with one more that we'll get to in a second. It's really easy to manage your resources, but sometimes you just need to get that retire to either minus your opponent's board, get rid of a problem unit, or just to trigger Eugene, because 1 retire is all it takes to trigger it. And then to wrap up grade 2s, we do play the grade 2 order, Burn Bright Pure Prayers. If you're at 3 damage or greater, it can be used to give your Vanguard 15k, so it's another 15k shield. I like having defensive options. I play the deck very defensively, so on top of all the triggers, that's another 2 more 15k shields. For grade 3s, of course, we play a total of 4 Eugenes. Eugene is bonkers. As soon as I read him, I was immediately in love with the card. He is a combination of my 3 favorite clans. My favorite clans since the beginning of Vanguard were always Kagero, Gold Paladin, and Dark Irregulars. He's a soul-focused deck that soul charges a lot. He retires rear guards, and he calls a board off the top of the deck. You can rest 2 units to retire one of your opponent's rear guards and give him 10k. You can actually do it just to gain the 10k if you really want to try and push numbers for him to hit. As long as you retired one of your opponent's rear guards during your main phase, you can Soul Blast 5 to check top X and call as many units as you want. X being how many open rear guard cycles your opponent has, and then the rest of the cards go to Soul, so it starts fueling for you to use it again. Now the only downside is because the cards do not go back to deck, if you hit a bunch of triggers, you lose out on those triggers. But again, and you never run out of soul, so you can potentially do it again. We play 2 Penetrate Dragon Tribash. This is probably the only card I would consider running more of. All it does is when your Vanguard attacks, while it's on the rear guard, you move it into the soul, your Vanguard gets an extra crit. Eugene already pumped himself up, so giving him an extra crit just adds more pressure. And you can actually put him behind the Vanguard, use him for Eugene's skill, and he doesn't matter because you can just pop him into the soul and get in that extra crit. And the last card we run of is a 1 of grade 3 order, Sunlight Punishment. Counterblast as many as you want, retire that many of your opponent's rear guards. Simple, very powerful. In a deck like this, sometimes you just can't retire huge boards, so dropping this down when you don't really need counterblast is insane. I've retired 3 units at a time with this during the last local tournament I went to. Combining that with Eugene, with other cards, it's really easy to just wipe whole boards. And it's also sometimes just that oh shit button. If that's the only card in your hand, you can wipe your opponent's board with it and then trigger Eugene to make a whole board. Solid. Alright guys, that's it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions about any of my card choices, please let me know in the comments. But what I want to say about the deck overall, the deck is a lot of fun. Kind of high risk, because RNG does become a big play into making those boards. But a lot of times once you establish your board state, you don't really have to use the effect over and over again. So you don't end up burning through your deck as fast. The deck has a lot of really, really good matchups. It only has one really, really bad one that I will let you guys know in a second. Against Varina itself, Bastion, Magus, pretty much every deck out there, it plays great. It can go hard off of your opponent just having 1 rear guard. The only deck that absolutely dookies on it and makes it almost impossible to play is Barrow Magnus because of this card. The fact that they can call this card out and put it right back into the soul after they attack with it just makes the card absolutely bonkers and makes it so when it comes to your turn, you can't really do anything. So after Barrow Magnus retires your entire board, you can't really call another board back out. My only advice for Barrow Magnus is we can hit solid numbers between Rander and Oshikuni. So just call out boosters, call them out, get those 23K lines out as early as possible, and push. It seemed to work as a viable strategy, but that's about all I got. Anyway, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys want to reach me on social media, those links are down below. But that's it for me. I'll catch you guys later with the next video.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning.